up, guys? Army-Firedawg back, and today I actually have a review video for you. Not an unboxing video, but a review. A good buddy of mine from Sennheiser, Bill Poteet, actually sent me the brand new Sennheiser HD630vb. These are their newest offerings to the lineup. Well, newest consumer-based offering to their lineup. Orpheus. Anywho. So I've had these for a little over a week now, so I've had a really good chance to narrow in on what it sounds like and what it puts out. But first, I like to start with the construction of it. It's very well built. Like, this is almost all aluminum all throughout. As the only plastic I can immediately see is a little bit that's right here on the swivels, right here. I mean, it feels solid. It is quite bulky though. Like, as you can see, it is. I mean, these ain't small. I mean, these will stand out. The big aspect on it, what sets it apart, is this right here. This is where it gets its VB from, variable bass. So you can see right here it has the max. Then all the way over there, you have minimum. I usually keep mine somewhere along this range here. Actually, about this range. About 1/3 of the way. The volume controls and track work for iPhone and Android. So my LG V10, volume control and track, our volume control, let me just stress that, worked for my phone. So the era of the Apple-only volume control is slowly starting to die away. Moving on down to the cable. The cable, despite being very thick, it just doesn't feel premium. I mean, it doesn't feel cheap, but it just doesn't feel like a really strong cable like I know Sennheiser can produce. And this is a big downside for me, and it's one of the only Sennheiser product that's ever had this that I've tested. The cable does not detach. This cable is permanently attached. That is horrible for two reasons. One, you cannot upgrade it. So if you want to buy a better cable, like the Moon Audio's, their Silver Dragons, which I think would really complement those. I think the Silver Dragon would be very good for those. Or more commonly, you might shear your cable. You might get stuck on something, or I've had happen once, your cat chews it. Well, now you're out $500, or you have to send it back to Sennheiser for a repair. That's on you, because that doesn't classify as a default. So I'm completely against permanently attached cables. Other than those small things, the construction on this thing is top-notch. Very good job, Sennheiser. Absolutely top-notch quality, especially in that price point. Now, moving on to comfort. The padding has just enough give to where it mushes to the head, but doesn't completely give way, which is always good to have. The ear cups, on the other hand, turn this around, are a bit stiff. Like, these don't have much give to you. So you add that with the slightly above average clamping force, and this can be very fatiguing for some. Even me myself, I got about 2 hours with these before I have to call it. So in terms of comfort, I give it out as an acceptable rating. It's not awesome, but it sure ain't poor either. I get it personally about 2 hours before I do have to take them off. An hour and a half is when I have to start adjusting them. Alright, and here we are. It's time for the sound quality. So how are the massively hyped, brand new offerings from Sennheiser? These have been hyped for a good while. So the soundstage, it's respectable. Actually, I mean, it's not the best soundstage in the world. Like, I've heard much broader, much more airier sound stages, even in the closed back category, but it definitely isn't lacking. But the layering on the soundstage is very impressive. Like, I was listening to one of my favorite tracks. It was the Pirates of the Caribbean by the Rhapsody Philharmonic. I could really discern individual instruments. Now, if you've watched the video on YouTube, it's also on YouTube, there's quite a bit of moving pieces. But I was able to discern each individual instrument for a good while before they all started meshing together. That was very impressive on that price point. Another huge aspect it has going for it is the imaging and the transparency. Now, I have heard much, much better, even in the price range, maybe a little bit less, but I was very impressed with how good the imaging was. Now, it's kind of like a mixed thing. Is it can absolutely take you away to the performance you want, if you let it. It doesn't possess the ability, like if you remember the AudioQuest Nighthawks did, to where it almost forces you to close your eyes and enjoy the experience. These, if you let it take you, it'll take you. If not, it'll very happily be a background music playing headphone. But let's move on to more of the individual aspects. So, of course, starting with the treble, I really enjoyed the highs on those. It wasn't sparkly or it wasn't energetic or something like that, but it was a very smooth sounding treble. It was just very enjoyable treble presence. I really enjoyed listening to the violins, Lindsey Sterling, the black violin, stuff like that. They have really energetic violin pieces. I really enjoyed it. Moving down to the mids, the mids were okay. Now, on a personal, non-professional note, I'm actually kind of disappointed on the mids on these. Sennheisers, to me, have always been very awesome with their mids. They've always been slightly forward, just really enjoyable, very full-bodied mids. It just felt average to me. Like, it never really stood out. I mean, they do have a slight dip in them, so they do have a slight V shape to them, the 630 VBs do. But it never really sounded like a Sennheiser mids to me, if that made any sense. But again, that's just a personal, non-professional note. But, I mean, they did have a nice body to them. Like, when I was listening to S.O.B. by Nathaniel Ratcliffe, you could really discern the finger and bone aspect during the snap the fingers or when they were clapping their hands or whatever. Now, moving on to the bass. Now, on the bass aspect, I cannot give a complete review, or I will refrain from it. The reason for such is, like I said, what it is a variable bass. So my review of the bass response will change completely depending on what your individual setting is. It's highly likely yours will be different from mine. Now, I will give somewhat of a summary over the maximum and minimum settings, because those obviously will not change. So on the minimum setting, it still has a very nice punch to it. It's respectably controlled, seeing as what kind of audience it's geared towards. Despite it having the minimum wording, it has had a pretty impressive bass response. That's why most of the time I left it between the minimum to the 1/3 maximum range. Now, when you move over to the maximum, the bass heads will be pretty enjoyable. Like, it really gives a large, notable oomph to the mid-bass range and a slight extra tad bit oomph to the sub-bass range. Not a whole lot. It's mostly in the mid-bass, but it's notable. In fact, it reminded me very closely of the Beats Pro. If any of y'all have heard that headphone, how it's just really powerful bass, it really reminded me of that headphone, just much, much more controlled and much cleaner. So I believe these are a great headphone to take the Beats crowd into the hi-fi side, which I actually wouldn't be surprised one bit if that was the idea or the goal of the HD630vbs. But in summary, guys, the Sennheiser HD630vb is an outstandingly well-built headphone. The variable bass feature is extremely efficient, especially in households with multiple users that have different tastes in bass response. If they were to be dropped, I have no issues or worries that they can handle use even in houses with the younger audiences, if you get my drift, that live around and they're worried about their higher inside. These can take a drop. I mean, they might show a scratch or some blemishes being aluminum, but they ain't going to break on you very easily. Like, it's going to take work. But that's actually about it for the Sennheiser HD630vbs. They definitely rate into the fun category of audio. They can jam your beat with them. They have very prominent bass aspect, and they are outstanding gaming headphones. I didn't tie on that earlier, but they do very well for gaming. If you liked the video, definitely hit that like button, guys. I greatly appreciate your all support. And also, if you don't mind, share the video with someone you might know who's thinking about getting the 630s. Like, it's a very popular headphone, and it has been in quite a bit of demand or in conversation, especially on the Head-Fi crowd, with people interested in how well the variable bass response works. So definitely share this video and let them know. If you have any questions on the 630vbs or any other headphones I reviewed, or if you have any headphones you'd like me to try and review, I can't promise anything, but I will do my absolute best to reach out to said parties, put my name out there, put my application there to be one of their reviewers. And if it works, hey, I got a new video for y'all. But if you really like my content, definitely tighten smash that subscribe button, keep yourself on the field in. But as always, my name's Army-Firedawg. It's been a pleasure, but most importantly, stay safe.